We have two stories to discuss today. One is Andrew Huberman, potentially being a bit of a misogynistic prick, and the other is James Bond, a misogynistic prick that we all love.
If someone, can't be trusted in their personal life, does that have reflection in the other areas of their life? Their cognitive process, their understanding of what information to give, what are they holding back, or what are they lying about? Are they a compulsive liar across every area of their life?
He's every 17-year-old boy's dream.
This is how these people rise to this fame, through the fanboys.
If anything is the same from when I grew up, finding out your idol is also a man that has the ability to be a womanizer and every girl loves him would only make him more popular with young men.
But then there's also the Andrew Tate. Things are being clipped. Things are being taken out of longer form interviews. When you get that big, there's more people casting an eye on what you're saying. And if some of the stuff you're saying isn't right, you're going to get louder, more vocal criticism.
So as the countdown was coming onto Riverside of what I was to go live, before we went on air, I said, what should we call this episode? And I didn't know. And literally as the countdown was happening, I went, should we just call it The Tale of Two Misogynistic Men? Because we have two stories to discuss today. One is Andrew Huberman, potentially being a bit of a misogynistic prick. And the other is James Bond, a misogynistic prick that we all love. So if we start with Huberman, like for people who don't know, New York Magazine came out with this like 8,000 word article basically slamming Huberman in terms of being a misogynistic, manipulating people, or particularly manipulating women, dating multiple women at the same time. And we've seen the response to this kind of fall down into two camps. We see people who think this is a government conspiracy hit job, which is why I thought you'd be the perfect person for this episode. And the fitness industry fanboys are normally that camp. And then we see the other camp of people that feel like they've been wronged by Mr. Huberman and think that, well, he's not as in control of his life as he says he is online. So where do you fall in the Andrew Huberman topic?
It's none of my business.
Oh, so
which is a cop-out, right? Which is a complete cop-out.
But it's the moral point of this story, and it's the thing we'll double back to.
100%. But if it's a cover article for New York Magazine, you'd expect, or I would expect, something huge. This guy doing what the average club 18 to 30 male and female does by dating multiple people at the same time is not groundbreaking enough to be a cover article in anything, right? It should be a derogatory tweet from the women that have been wronged, and that's about it, as far as I'm concerned. But it does obviously bring into question if someone is that. What's the opposite of trustworthy? What's the word?
Opposite of trustworthy? I don't know. But I would say hypocritical, I suppose.
Hypocritical. If someone, can't be trusted in their personal life, does that have reflection in the other areas of their life? Their cognitive process, their understanding of what information to give, what are they holding back, or what are they lying about? Are they a compulsive liar across every area of their life? It's definitely worth considering for the average person that might listen to Huberman on Modern Wisdom, Joe Rogan, etc., and just take his word as gospel, and this is how these people rise to this fame, through the fanboys. Cool, like you've probably jumped on a protocol that might not be right for you, that might not be grounded in the deepest amount of science. Those of us who know how to dig a little bit deeper can see the forest for the trees. You can see, for an example, Tonkat Ali, cool supplement if your testosterone is already at a decent level. For those whose testosterone is shot, no amount of Tonkat Ali is going to get you there. But then there's also the Andrew Tate. Things are being clipped. Things are being taken out of longer form interviews. I said this a couple of years ago. One of the first things I saw, I was saying this is the way future marketing is going to go. Was a clip of Andrew Huberman talking on Rogan about Tonkat Ali, and it was an advert for Tonkat Ali as if it was Huberman's thing, as if it had all the correct information about it. It was a sham advert for a supplement company that probably didn't ask Rogan or Huberman permission to use that clip, all sorts of stuff. But this was just part of the guy's elevation to fame, and when you get that big, there's people that want to take you down for whatever flipping reason. But when you get that big, there's more people casting an eye on what you're saying. And if some of the stuff you're saying isn't right, you're going to get louder, more vocal criticism. But the personal life stuff, for me, that's more unrelated.
Mm.
I think when you first texted me about this, I didn't know anything about it. I saw for a while. I've seen the Nadolski brothers kind of calling him out a little bit on certain pseudo-scientific bits, but I don't know exactly what. I've got their podcast saved in my list, and I still haven't listened to it about him. But as soon as you texted me about it, I just had a quick Google, Andrew Huberman, not trustworthy, whatever. I was like, okay, doesn't mean we should instantly discount everything Huberman has said. And if you want to do that, then go and burn all your Stephen Hawking's books, because that geezer went to Epstein's Island. So therefore, you can no longer believe in black holes, theory of relativity, whatever.
Physics is now no longer accurate.
Physics is
it's changed because physics doesn't want to be associated with Stephen Hawking, so we're just going to change our views.
Yeah. So there's no need for an immediate disassociation from everything Huberman said. And if you look at Huberman's advice on a basic level, okay, maybe slightly out of his remit, but some kind of sound protocols in there.
But this is the thing about out of remit, right? I think we take this thing, especially people who are trying to refute people, of stay in your lane thing a bit too seriously. I always remember, and maybe people are going to go, shut up, Simon, who look at you quoting, but I always remember that do you ever see Paul Saladino on Doctors? Have you ever seen this, the TV show Doctors? And this very, very awful host, she was so ignorant, and she was screaming at him, saying that, well, you're a doctor in psychiatry. What right do you have to talk about nutrition? And I'm like, he's dedicated the last, and whether you like or dislike Paul Saladino's opinions, and again, another person that's been heavily soundbited, because if anyone listens to Paul Saladino long form, they go, he gets his blood work, he's open to suggestion. He's recently added 200 grams of carbs into his day from honey and fruit, and he's recently tried potatoes and rice and said, they don't agree with him. He's very much this is what works for me. I'm not saying it works for you, but this is the research why I've done it. But yes, okay, so he's a doctor of psychiatry. Does that mean he can never talk about anything other than the brain and any other aspect of his life?
Yeah.
Sure. If you're someone who's a medical researcher, you shouldn't necessarily be practicing with clients, but it doesn't mean you can study something and not talk on a podcast about something you've dedicated your life towards. And I don't think anything that Huberman is going to say is going to come just off on a whim. And I suppose it comes down to this, how much does anecdotal evidence matter? Right? And this is the thing that I think, this is the thing that I think I wish that most coaches would kind of understand. This is this evidence-based versus evidence-informed thing, right? That people will go, I don't believe it until the science says this, when science looks at people on a bell curve and may not look at the outliers. Science doesn't take into where that individual is starting. So you see people listen to Andrew Huberman's podcast, and now they don't talk about training anymore. They just talk about ice baths. I'm like, you've gone way too far in the other direction. But on the flip side, then you have the evidence-based crowd going, ice baths ruin muscle growth. And I'm like, right, hold up. Because I see these people that talk about mechanical tension, length of range pulses, also say ice baths ruin muscle growth. And I'm like, I tell you what, if I ate perfectly in a slight surplus, trained with a perfect amount of mechanical tension, worked on my structure mechanics, did all the length of range pulses in the world, but then did an ice bath every morning, I don't think I'd be small. And that's the thing I get with the Andrew Huberman thing, is that he's become a little bit of a. And I'm not saying it's right, because I very much refute this article. I think the claims are people trying to get attention, disgruntled ex-partners that are trying to get attention. But I hope in a way, if there's any good that comes of this, it just adds a little bit of balance, so people go, do you know what? Let me just look into this and see where my opinion sits in this. Because you should be questioning Andrew Huberman, not because he's wrong, because he's smarter than me, but because you should be naturally inquisitive. And I don't think people are.
Should be questioning anyway. The fame that people achieve now can distort the messaging a little bit. So you've got let's just describe him as a neuroscientist. You'll find multiple podcasts where he is talking about nutrition, multiple podcasts where he is talking about hormones and lifestyle factors and things like that. And 100%, all those things are connected 100%.
Well, that's the thing.
But
So I
could
don't
you
cut
have
you off
got
there, but like people go like,
no,
oh,
cool.
it's out of his remap talking about hormones or nutrition, like, and there's no link to the brain. Like, if you want to understand the brain, you got to have to understand how hormones work. Like, the endocrine
Gotta
system
understand
starts
hormones.
with the
Of course.
hypothalamus, right? So, like, I think people are going to go, oh, it stops there. As soon as the hypothalamus talks to maturity, as soon as it goes to the adrenals, you need to shut up. I'm like, no, absolutely not. These things all link.
Imagine that. Yeah, there is a regulatory board that. Whoa! He started talking about the kidneys. Shut him down now. Brain only, you. Oh my God, he's talking about foot health. No.
Yeah, hold on. He's talking about pecs. They're a little bit too far south. Get back up there, boy. Get in your lane.
It is interesting to ponder this. That okay, he probably Rogan or whoever he's been on, you probably could have got a better person, more knowledgeable and practiced person to talk about endocrinology or certain nutritional things. But in a way, in terms of his actual field, yeah, there probably is no one better to actually get on who's out there who is confident explaining on both a high scientific level and a dumbed down level for the average person, me, to understand. But obviously there is, same with everyone, stuff has to be called into question. Jordan Peterson doing a ton of podcasts on climate change. Now, it doesn't mean he doesn't understand what he's read, the information he's taken, the experts he's spoken to. It doesn't mean that what he's saying isn't relevant. But I think there is this not necessarily conscious or agendaed drive to be like, well, I've got to do this to stay relevant, to build my audience. I know about this. Why the hell wouldn't I go on this podcast and talk about hormones or climate change or whatever? And it builds the brand and it holds them up higher. And obviously, the higher you go, the bigger you fall. Not that I think this is going to be a fall in the slightest, but very interested to see what happens next. He's not commented on this stuff whatsoever. He doesn't really need to. Doesn't need to at all. If we get a Liverkin style Hollywood apology video, I'll be super disappointed. But I don't think we will. Mainly because the geezer seems to be kind of grounded on that TRT level rather than highly emotional Liver King spikes of up and down testosterone needs to do. So he's quite grounded.
I'm intrigued if it actually makes him more popular, because if you start looking at I don't know what his following is, but I would argue that it would skew male, right?
Yes, sure.
And again, times are changing, and we've had many podcasts about the situation with men and things like this. But if anything is the same from when I grew up, finding out your idol is also a man that has the ability to be a womanizer and every girl loves him would only make him more popular with young men. They're not going to go outrage. He's every 17-year-old boy's dream. A smart guy that understands health, in good shape, that has a life a bit like Action Man that all the girls love. It's like people are just going to love him anymore. Like, the thing I've heard a lot from the people who sort of buy into this article is refuting him is like, well, he's not as much in control of his own life. So almost like he's a bit of a hypocrite. Like, he's clearly, these things on his podcast can't be true because he is he's not in control of his relationships. So how can he say this is how you can control your brain when you're not in control of your brain? And I look at that and go, well, like, who is perfect? Right? Like, does the fact that I'm a little bit out of shape right now, does the fact that I've not been to the gym this week, does that mean that all of the years of experience and knowledge that I have is pointless? Does that mean I'm now wrong in everything that I stand for and everything that I'm with? Do I have to be chronically 8% body fat to be right or relevant? Does a therapist not have right to be sad? Does a accountant not have the right to make a big purchase? Does a doctor not have the right to get ill? Right? It's this double standard we see in the fitness industry, and it really is in the fitness industry, right? No one questions an out-of-shape doctor, but this double standard where everyone expects people in the health and wellness space. If you're not perfect, then why do I believe what's coming out of your mouth? And I think, I have not met a fitness professional. Actually, that's a lie. I've met a couple of the genetically gifted people that just got into the gym. But 90% of the fitness industry got into it because they struggled with something. They struggle with their hormones. They struggle with their mental health, so they got into the brain. They struggle with their communication, people, so they got into psychology. They struggle with building muscles, so they got into the gym. Like the people, the reason why these people become popular and famous is because of that journey. Batman lost his parents. Daredevil went blind. Peter Parker was bitten by a spider. It's the pain that pushes people forward. And then for you to go, well, 20 years ago, he clearly wasn't balancing his adenosine system because he slept with another woman while he was in a relationship. And I'm like, do I condone that? Of course not. He could be a dickhead. But, like, that's fine. If he's a dick, lots of people are dickheads. It doesn't make them wrong.
There's a little bit of a lag going on.
Yes.
A little bit of a delay. But quite right. And anyone listening, do not think that we're defending cheaters or things like that or whatever. But I thought this was great. I've got it saved on my screen because I was pissing myself laughing. Just doing a little bit of research behind it because I didn't understand the full story. I'm not going to read that article either. But this was great from the Guardian of all places. It was quite defensive of him almost, where you think, right, okay, if the guy has not got this shit together in this area, he can't be trusted to have his shit together in this area. And if his brain's not making right decisions here, how do we know it's making right decisions here? This was great. On one hand, people have joked that Huberman's cheating is proof that his protocols definitely work. I mean, what normal person has the energy to date 6 different women and hold down a successful career? You need superhuman levels of energy to do that. Even the women he cheated on seem to have a grudging respect for his logical skills. One has written, the scheduling alone. I can barely schedule 3 Zooms in a day.
That could be his next podcast, couldn't it? Like, how to diary management with Andrew Huberman.
Oh my god!
But, yeah.
So I thought that was quite funny, but it is still very relevant, right? Can fame change someone? Was he necessarily saying wrong things previously earlier in his career? I don't see any evidence of that. I don't see anything that he's promoted being called out as blatantly false. Someone said something about sweeteners, but I don't know exactly what he said about sweeteners. Maybe a bit of alarmist stuff going on. I don't know. But when you look at Lane Norton's been on his podcast, Lane Norton would call him the fuck out. He's been on obviously a couple Hubermans, a couple Rogans. Like, the guy's exposing himself to be taken down scientifically. And so far, the biggest thing that's taken him down is about his personal life.
Yeah. I think when you look at this as well, like, the artificial sweetness thing, we're still emerging science. Science is often like 10 to 15 like years behind reality. So what we know now about, let's say, artificial sweeteners might be totally different in 15 years. So a lot of Charles Poliquin, we've spoken about this in previous shows. Poliquin, a lot of stuff now has been proven right long after Charles has gone.
Yeah.
So I like, and also, like, you can have an opinion and interpret the research in different ways. Research isn't this. A lot of people who don't know how to read research go, look, study says, irrefutable proof. I'm like, well, let's look at how the study was done. Let's look at how long the actual study went on, how many participants there were. Is there any like confounding variables? Like, it's a collation, a summation of lots of articles over time that informates our opinion, and still a best educated guess. Science gives us an idea. It doesn't give us bang, 100% irrefutable. So I think we look at this as with an overly too critical eye when we could not do what he does. And I've known people call out Huberman, like smart people. Lane Norton did it, right? And he was very open to find out where he was wrong. And like, that's what we should be looking for. We should be looking for this beacon of perfection in our idols, because like, it doesn't exist. Like, anyone that sits there right now listening to this and goes, well, he's a hypocrite. And I'm just like, well, okay. Are you perfect? Have you made mistakes? Have you done things that aren't relevant to your career? Probably. Does that mean that you should not be respected, not listened to? Does that mean your opinion is invalid? Absolutely not. And that's the thing that my biggest thing is this, is like, separate his personal life is personal. Unless he does anything criminal, right? Then maybe it's a thing of public opinion. It doesn't mean I condone it. If he's a dick to women, do I condone his life? No. but it doesn't change his professional opinion. I remember, I won't bring names into this, but I remember, I think we spoke about this before, and this is the opinion of the way people react to things, of this very clickbait emotional connection to these kind of stories. Is I posted a "We Need to Keep Women Safe" video after the Sarah Everard case few years ago on my Instagram. And then I did that, and then I posted up a story of, really enjoyed this lecture on reverse dieting by a certain person. And I got slammed in the DMs going, how would you promote this person after that video? He's done this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, I don't condone that. But it doesn't mean he doesn't understand reverse dieting and he doesn't have knowledge to offer. Like, these two buckets are separate, right? People are amazing people professionally and can offer great advice and can be awful human beings in private. There's things about Jonathan Van Ness being a bit of an angry diva, which doesn't really surprise me, and lashing out to people. Doesn't mean I'm not going to watch Queer Eye. It's still fun. I still like him on the show, right? Like, how many actors are dickheads in real life? Doesn't make him a bad actor, right? Like, so I don't know why in the health space we've had this very much different opinion that people should be absolutely living how they say. And I've also heard people like really try and clutch at straws that they want to take him down. Like, one was like, well, he had someone on his podcast that wasn't a clinical researcher. They just had a course to sell. Again, does that make everything I say stupid because I've got a course to sell? I was like, not everyone's going to be a researcher, and not every bit of good information comes from a lab. John Meadows, Charles Poliquin, right? These people made, these people built their reputations and built their of anecdotal in the trenches work, which is as important.
Yeah. The crabs in a bucket, tall poppy syndrome is so rife, and again, it's a British and American phenomenon, right? The number of people that jumped on social media to criticize Poliquin's death. Oh, that shows his fish oil protocol didn't work. Fuck me, bruv. Come on. And I saw that a lot. I'm like, come on, man. That's ridiculous. Louis Simmons got it as well. Louis Simmons, all sorts of people have got higher up, becoming, some of the greatest strength coaches in this space. And there's smaller people with nothing going on that want to take them down, or people in that mid-level with a bit of a jealous spite that want to be up where they are, etc.
Even being critical, right? If you're looking at Charles Poliquin's untimely, way too young heart attack and death as his fish oil protocol didn't work, or his cardio recommendations are whack, and I'm like, if you can't read between the test prop line, right, and look at the anabolic steroids and look at the amount of muscle mass for a very small man frame wise, like it shows you are not in a position to be making such, even though it's completely disrespectful. Let's put that in a bucket for 1 second. If you can't read between the lines that there's other confounding variables here, you don't know what his family history is of heart attacks. Like, even if I believe that, I don't know the variables to put that horrible message into the universe. And like, it's a weird world, the fitness industry. Like, especially these days, we are in a very much a takedown culture. It's the reason why I kind of wanted to get ahead of this. Like how long on your Instagram scroll do you have to scroll for someone to be slating Eddie Abu? Like, it's people's marketing these days. I did a reel yesterday. I did a reel yesterday of like, look, like, if you really hate Eddie Abu as much as you say you do, don't promote his page. Unless it's not about the fact that he hates him, and it's more about you want to piggyback off his audience, which is fine. It's the Instagram game. I get it. But own it. If your videos are there to say, I have a moral high ground, here's the idea is stupid, then you're kind of a bit shady. And before anyone goes, Simon, you've done a reaction video to Eddie Abu, but if you notice, the first half of that is entirely me saying what I like about his message. It's not call out culture.
It's funny because Eddie Abu was made famous by the fitness industry, promoting his videos, doing their reactions, doing the criticisms. That's what made him bigger. Most of my friends, very active on social media, do not know who he is because they're not personal trainers. because they're not living in the gym. They're not watching coaches and things like that. And in a way, you could say we're also responsible for people, or responsible for the rise in fame of people like Andrew Huberman, because suddenly here's a reputable guy talking about magnesium. Here's a reputable guy talking about sleep, and look at he's obviously on TRT as well, of course, quite openly on TRT, and for his age, he looks pretty goddamn good. I wouldn't mind looking like Hugh. There was a great. I have to interject slightly, sidetrack slightly. I want to say it was called. I can't remember who wrote it. Save my life. I want to say it was called An Ode to Andrew Huberman. When Andrew Huberman was on Cameron Haynes' podcast, where he takes them out on his ranch and they shoot and they run and then they ruck to the top of this mountain carrying a rock. And Huberman gets to the top and he's topless and he's got his tattoos out and his chest hair and his beard. It looks absolutely glorious. And this article, An Ode to Huberman, about you've not just got grey and black hair on your chest, you've got the perfect ratio of grey to black hair, and like how the sun is cascading across all three heads of your delts. And I was really going, this is fucking amazing. It's just beautiful. But we are partly responsible for these things, right? It's the industry sharing these clips most of the time, because we're taking the positives and going, here, this is my message as well. I'm saying this too. Here, look at me, look at me. I talk about magnesium as well. Here's a reputable guy. Why you should listen to me. But it just pushes the rise of these people like further and further. And then we'll be the first ones to go, oh, actually, here's why you shouldn't listen to him anymore. And it's a weird industry when you really think about it. I do wonder, we've spoken about this several times, does this happen in other industries? Does this happen in finance and legal and infrastructure? Is this just in health and wellness industry specific?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is a very much a fitness industry thing, because I think the barrier to entry in the fitness industry is so low. I think it's encouraged to do your research in a law firm, but in the fitness industry, when people aren't academically minded, they've maybe dropped out at sixth form and then they do a 6-week course, that they don't know how to look deeper into things. They don't know how to study. They don't know how to admit they're wrong. So you get this. I don't understand how to question it. He seems smart. I'll just clutch onto his opinion. And that's how these people become big. And in the same way, it's the reason why Eddie Abu's been so slammed. I don't agree with everything that Eddie Abu says, but it's very much I only understand calorie deficit. He threatens the only thing I know. So all of a sudden he becomes the enemy, which is I just don't think is accurate. So where do you think personally the middle ground is with this?
The middle ground is recognizing that you can't have. So the sad reality is you can't have heroes, because, and this is a good and a bad thing. Everyone's flawed. Every hero. Oh my god, you ever have? I need the Huberman supplements. That's what I need. Yeah, every hero you have is flawed. So the best heroes you could possibly have are flawed. There will be a history of drug abuse, potentially sexual abuse, potentially cheating, like we're seeing, money-related things. There'll be aggression, violence. It doesn't matter who. Everyone's got something hidden in their closet. And the higher regard you hold someone in and hang on their every word, which is dangerous, because again, people are human. We're all flawed. We have the potential to misread. We have the potential to misunderstand. We can have fame changing our message slightly as well, and distorting your perception of who you actually are, which is a common thing we hear from people. They don't know who they are anymore once the fame's got to their head. You can't hold one person up as the be-all and end-all. You've got to follow every single word they say, because not everyone completely has their shit together. And the higher regard you hold people in, the more disappointed you're going to be when some of this stuff comes out. And for some reason, it is in the media's interest, no one else's interest, it is in the media's interest to push this stuff. Not that really anyone cares. You could have gone the rest of your life not knowing any of this stuff about Huberman, and it wouldn't have affected you in the slightest. But media loves to know how to push that button. You need to know this thing about this person. And that's just a distraction from what you need to do as a person, live your best quality life, you know?
So after a quick webcam malfunction, we're back. But I think you absolutely nailed that last point. I think last thing I've got before we move on to topic 2 of the day is, do you think there's any relevance to the fact that there's potentially a hit piece on people who are promoting non-mainstream media pharmaceutical options to health? Like sunlight doesn't cost anything. Weight training doesn't cost anything. Ice baths may cost something, but you can do it in your home with a cold shower. You know, like, we are promoting cheaper alternatives that don't need this. Is there validity in this, or are we all putting our tinfoil hats on a bit too prematurely?
There's 100% validity in this. There is vested interest in pharmaceutical companies that are invested in media companies as well, promoting their message over anything else. I think as soon as any non-pharmaceutical message becomes mainstream, it gets taken down fairly flipping quickly. And personal attacks are obviously a very, very easy way of doing so. The major pharmaceutical companies, obviously, it's all profit for them. It's all about profit, not necessarily about the best potential care or product on the market. So as soon as someone comes in saying sunlight and sleep and hydration and the right supplementation and the right stuff in your diet, what wonders that can do for you, obviously that draws people away from the pharmaceuticals, profit goes down. This ain't even tinfoil stuff, right? Obviously the tinfoil stuff, we've done a million
My
podcasts on
argument
it, we
there
could
is
do
that
that again.
I appreciate that tinfoil stuff, like the pharmaceutical companies aren't going to promote like these healthy ways of doing things because they want you to buy the product, like any business, right? Like, I mean, maybe I do it, and maybe this is why I'm not rich, but I shouldn't maybe promote other education companies, but I wouldn't slam them. I wouldn't try and pull them down. So, like, I suppose where the tinfoil hat thing comes in is like, okay, yeah, I get it. Pfizer aren't going to tell you to go outside and get vitamin D, but are Pfizer going to try and go out and get a coordinated attack on Andrew Huberman? And also, like, I know these pharmaceutical companies are powerful, but like, are they really going to have people in all these journalism and magazines doing their bidding? Like, it seems very New World Order coordination for all these people to be on the same page against the fitness space.
It wouldn't be hard at any point, anyone could do this, to find out the Google search trends of Andrew Huberman supplement protocols, things like that. So in terms of, pharmaceutical companies having people in the media, etc., the media is its own machine. The media needs its own sales as well. So when they might be thinking, "Fuck, what the hell do we write about today? We need a cover magazine for next month. What do we do? What are people talking about? Google search trends. Andrew Huberman. What can we find about you?" Didn't some woman write to us one time saying she was his ex-girlfriend or something?
They did actually go
then
hunting for the article, whether it's just for the journalism, because they reached out to all these ex-lovers and partners. They got the dirt, and then they verified them, tried to verify them with is it Stanford? He's from, what is it, Harvard? Stanford, right? And they stuck up for him. So they went to his family. They even spoke to his father. I'm like, this is low.
Mate, they're relentless. They're absolutely relentless. They really flipping are. It's ridiculous. And it's scary what happens behind the scenes in media. They know everything. They know absolutely everything. Everything is perfectly placed. Harking back to more, when we read actual print, actual newspapers before it all went digital, but digital makes it even easier for them. Every advert on that page is designed based on how much they're bidding, obviously, but what story's on that page as well, and how that story is likely to make you feel. Because they know if you feel angry, you're likely to buy this. If you feel sad, you're likely to buy this. If you feel happy, you're likely to buy this. This person saying thing in this article might trigger you to think, "Oh, I haven't had a holiday for a while. Holy shit, there's an advert for cruise ships. I'm going to go on a cruise." They know everything, and there's more data now than ever to make. And now they don't have to worry about that one advert in the tiny paper. That advert can be seen on your phone for months until you buy on it. They know absolutely everything, and they know everything about everyone. If the skeleton's in your closet, they'll be so easy to find out. And this is what I've said for so long, since the whole Edward Snowden stuff. No one cares about their privacy anymore. How many people are just clicking yes on cookies and terms and conditions and all this stuff just to get it off the screen quicker and sign up to the latest app, the latest AI art thing, so they can put their filter on Instagram. You're just giving more and more data away, and you might think that it doesn't matter. And for the large percentage of people, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But everything's out there. So if you do ever make it big and you've had several affairs, or you've got illegitimate love childs, or you've been, sex trafficking to Epstein's Island, if people know about it already, there's just no interest in them putting that information out there because you're nobody. It really doesn't matter. But as soon as you become somebody, suddenly that story becomes profitable. And then they decide whether to use it or not.
Here we go. Yeah. So we got I agree. So do you think there's going to be other things coming out about Huberman? Is he going to go through the Tate thing where
No.
they try one thing and they fail, so they try another thing?
This will be why the repeated focus on Andrew Tate. I'm not sure. I think it's more because of how much influence he does have versus someone like Huberman. I think this will go the way of Russell Brand. A few months will be like, what? Just carry on. People who loved Russell Brand still listen to his podcast. People who love Huberman will still listen to Huberman's appearances.
Do you think there'll be, because at the moment there's nothing criminal, right? So he'll be on YouTube. There's no repercussions of him. So he's just like making people just gossip in the background. Like, do you think there'll be a point where perhaps they'll something, maybe an ex-girlfriend will come out and say something a little bit more underward, and we start to see YouTube start to move from the platform?
Yeah, you never know. Because at the moment, as far as I'm aware in the article, they've changed everyone's names.
Oh, interesting.
All the ladies' names. As far as I'm aware, I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that. But obviously, that's how a story can progress. We've changed their name to protect their identity, but now they want to come out and say their thing. And here's our exclusive, well-lit 4K interview with.
Okay, interesting.
If there's interest, if there's continued interest in that, But again, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. That could be their real names in the article. I don't know. I can't see this. This one for me hasn't got legs. But I don't know. Like, Russell Brand, that was a Channel 4 documentary.
I don't think we're at the end of that.
And suddenly everyone's opinions.
I think the storm is building.
I still think, I said this 10 years ago, I still think with Russell Brand, the biggest thing that's going to happen is he's going to claim he's the return of Jesus. And that's probably going to happen within the next 2 years, I reckon. Because he started talking about Jesus more. And then he's going to come out going, actually, I don't know. Yeah, maybe more with Brand.
Yeah, I think Huberman's maybe enough under the radar. He's still very niche, where I think Brand and Tate are very mainstream. Like things like again, I'm not saying that this isn't true, but the recent arrest of Tate came after he said, "Oh, I will tell all my story when I don't have it." I was like, and then 24 hours later he's arrested, and it's probably a coincidence, but it's like, oh my, that's a coincidence that's so weird.
Yeah,
that's about.
I think there's only so many coincidences that can happen, right? Before you see repeated actions based on certain behaviours, it's a bit odd.
And he was disappearing. If there's the thing with this. Like, this is why I think that they might have something on this one. I don't know, and I don't want to make this a Tate podcast, but it's like, if they'd have shut up, like, people aren't talking about Andrew Tate like they were a year and a half ago. They absolutely weren't. So regardless, you could have just let him be trying to recapture his fame, and you never would have got it.
Yeah.
So this extra arrest now put him back in the public eye. He's now the top person on Google again because of this recent arrest.
Yeah. And you're just building people up for a bigger elevation of fame. Rogan, people tried to take Rogan down for ages, bigger and bigger. People tried to take Joey Diaz down at one point. He's got a sold-out tour on the back of that. Jordan Peterson can sell out the O2 Arena. If you don't want to make these people bigger, don't talk about them. But there's so much interest in talking about people.
Yeah. So moving on to point 2. This is the one I'm particularly excited about because this is my thing. So a report from The Sun, reputable article of The Sun, claims that Aaron Taylor Johnson has been formally offered the role of James Bond, and he was suspected to have signed the papers later that week on that article, which was now basically about a week and a half ago. Now, we've been getting, since No Time to Die, articles like this of this person speculated to be the next James Bond for a very, very, very long time. This feels different. This feels different because, one, he's the kind of person he would cast, like an up-and-coming actor they probably don't have to pay too much now in the first movie, but they can rise up. It feels different because I've never seen the mainstream media catch hold of the rumor quite so much. It's off cuff going, Henry Cavill's slated to be the next James, Tom Hiddleston's slated to be the next James Bond, but everyone's reporting on this. He was at award ceremonies for the Daniel Craig premiere. He went to spent New Year at GoldenEye. Now, don't get me wrong. If I was the agent and manager of Aaron Taylor-Johnson and I knew he was in these rumors and I wasn't getting it, I would spark rumors like, let's go on holiday to Jamaica and let's take a picture in GoldenEye. Because even if he doesn't get it, he's now going to have more fame because of this at this moment in time. But this feels different. But I'm gonna hold my pinch of salt until Eon formally says he is our man. But do you think there's something in this? And what is your thoughts of Aaron Taylor-Johnson as the next James Bond?
I think there is more than potentially something in this. This could be a massive, like I say, this could be a massive PR effort for whatever else he may have upcoming, or just to keep him relevant, or whatever, right? It could be, but obviously that's just a thought. That's not me saying that it's definitely what's happening. The media noise about this is obviously quite loud compared to previous people who they. I'm trying to wait for me flipping finger load. I've got this bit is relevant, but also not relevant. Straight away, bookies will put out who do you think is going to be the next Bond, and people will vote on this, and this can then dictate the odds as well. But obviously, Bond has never been down to public vote, so instantly these things are beyond irrelevant, and it's not going to flip in load. But one of the things I thought this was interesting. This is from William Hill, Vegas. You know, whether that's reputable and trustworthy or not, just as the picture disappears as I'm talking about it. But like top level of Brits who have voted for who they'd like to see, 14%, which is the highest amount, is still Idris Elba, which is definitely not going to happen for multiple reasons. Too old. Second, matching at 13% is Tom Hardy and Henry Cavill, two people we've spoke about that clearly obvious why
Henry
they would
Cavill's
make
still my choice.
Good Bonds. Cavill over Hardy all day, every day.
No.
James Norton, Richard Madden.
Richard Madden was my choice for a while. I think Citadel will ruin it,
Madden, right?
Because it's too close. They've seen him as a spy.
Yeah, I think so. And like Henry Cavill signed up to some Warhammer thing. That's going to be series for years. That is going to be. Luke Evans. Then two geezers I've never heard of in my life. Only 2% of Brits would want Aaron Taylor-Johnson as their new 007. Looking at this survey, Idris Elba, sorry, a couple of flies trying to get in my fucking face. Idris Elba, Tom Hardy, Henry Cavill, James Norton, Richard Madden, Luke Evans, Aaron Taylor. To me, this sounds like a survey of female. Who do you want as your fucking Bond? Because it's all hot older guys, man. What are you doing? So there's no relevance in this, obviously, because it's never been down to public choice. Never. Daniel Craig, as soon as it was announced, the media hammered him. People hammered him. He'll be a terrible Bond. He looks weird. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, cut his hair, take his beard off, or shave, as you know, the common phrase is, looks weird. He's not your stereotypical good-looking guy with the hair, with the beard. Oh, yeah, he looks quite good now. For me, if he's Bond, I want that haircut. Come on, man. I don't want a long-haired Bond. I don't want that. And a little bit more clean-shaven, unless you've been in the field for a while, I would prefer that too. Which means we're going to have to deal with a weird-looking Bond. We had that with Daniel Craig anyway. That scene where he comes out of the water in Casino Royale.
Guys and girls, regardless of being a bit weird. Like, he's not a pretty boy like Roger, but Connery isn't. Yeah. Right, like, so it's this sort of like slightly more rugged, hard look. I think he can pull off. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the casting. Yeah. I think it calms the God. This is the cancel sentence of the day, but it calms the female of color Bond that we were that I was Oh God,
I'll
don't.
tell you something.
Like
Yeah, go on,
I
carry on,
want part
carry
of me
on,
wants
carry
the
on.
casting because I just don't want them to ruin the franchise. So I don't care too much
Yeah.
as long as it fits. And I'm
Yeah.
not my parameters aren't what white male wasp, right? Like I could take an Idris Elba, although I think he's a bit too old now. Now you've killed off Bond. You have room
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
ethnically diverse the character, right? Which I wouldn't have agreed with prior
Sure.
to No Time to Die. But now you've killed him off. You can make a story for this. You can make a link. But I think the changing the gender would just change the movie too much. You just do your own standoff. But I with Aaron Taylor Johnson, if you just watch Kick-Ass, if anyone's watched this going, "Oh, it's that guy from Kick-Ass," I get it. I understand. That's what was my thoughts too. Go and watch Bullet Train. Have you seen Bullet Train? Bullet Train, mate,
I haven't seen Bullet Train.
mate, he is Bond.
The last film I saw him in, not really knowing who he was because it's not a major part, was Tenet. And when I googled the name, who was this guy? Like, I remember him. And I was pretty cool in that as like an action military man. Not really evidence of being Bond. But then look at Daniel Craig, look at Pierce Brosnan. We don't see prior evidence where you go,
Layer
that's
cake,
why he
I
got
suppose,
Bond.
with Daniel
You
Craig.
don't really see that. Maybe, yeah, maybe. But like, I don't
Apparently, it was
need
a
that.
period
I
drama
just need
that
a
made
good
Barbara
Bond
Broccoli
film.
want Daniel Craig. She saw him walking as some sort of like king.
Yeah.
Was it King Lear? There was some sort of like royalty piece that he played in this period drama that she saw him walking down this corridor and she went, "Oh, he's got swagger," and that's what's made her decide that. But like, mate, Bullet Train. Very different movie, but he looks good in the suit. He has presence. He can deal with the action stuff. He's charismatic. Obviously, that's the writing as well as the person, but you can pull that off. He wouldn't be my first choice. I wouldn't choose him as Bond necessarily, but I would be very, very happy if Eon came out tomorrow and went, Aaron Taylor Johnson is the next James Bond. Very happy.
He's not completely unknown, but he also is a relative unknown. So why would more than 2% of Brits vote for him, right? Maybe that 2% of Brits are all people who have seen Bullet Train and gone, "Oh my God, he'd be amazing as fucking Bond," right? And that's why he's in that survey. That survey must have been done ages ago, I'm assuming, and this news is only just kind of recently coming out. The thing that worries me more is not who they will get to play Bond. It's what are they going to do with the film? Is it going to become because and again you get people talking about Bond. There's fake news articles out there. There's ramping up opinion and all sorts of stuff. So one of the first things I saw when I googled this was the odds of who will be the next Bond girl. I can't imagine for a second they're even looking at who the next Bond girl is, right? But obviously, the media obviously are. One of the things I only found out who this lady was today.
Oh yeah,
Sydney Sweeney.
I
hadn't heard of her
can
before,
see
right?
I can see it being
5-2.
I can see it being a Bond girl.
5-2 odds of being the next Bond girl, and it looks like let's say that is the case. It looks like that maybe they're going back towards that classic Bond era of a hot blonde. Maybe she'll be in a bikini, maybe she won't. And whatever, because obviously in the last couple of films we didn't have that stereotypical Bond girl as such. We had Anna
de
I can
Armas.
never remember her last name. Anna de Armas, like wearing the least amount of clothing on the screen, pretty kick-ass, pretty cool. Scene done in 20 minutes, not really a Bond girl. The main love interest was rarely, wearing anything skimpy or anything like that. It was kind of covered up and modest, really, if anything. So maybe we are going to see more of a
we'll go that far.
Testosterone.
I don't think we'll go that far. I think
worry,
we might get the odd bikini shot, but it'll be played down. It won't be unless they want to reference the original Bond movie. It won't be coming out of the water. It won't be like Halle Berry's attempt to be Ursula Andress, right? Like it's not going to be Honey Rider unless they're referencing it. I think it'll be there because it's a plot device. They happen to be on a beach environment rather than they're trying to glamorize how sexy this woman is. Which is not a shame. Not a shame. That's going to sound very misogynistic, but like it's a shame when you look at these things. It's like, what's wrong with celebrating that a woman is sexy? Like That's cool. Like, that's as cool
Yeah.
as, like, she could be sexy and ass kicker and a boss bitch and keep Bond in his place. Like, I don't know why you have to play down the sexiness to appeal. Like, it doesn't have to be degrading to be sexy. You're going to be empowering.
No.
You know,
Mm.
Vesper Lind, right? Absolutely sexy,
Yeah,
but she was like
yeah.
smart and intelligent and played it well. But the one I've heard, oh God, I can't remember her name now of thinking of it. The woman from Hollyoaks, who was also in that latest Harlan Coben movie. She's going out with Mark Wright.
No,
Harlan Coben.
no, I don't know.
I'm gonna Harlan Coben Netflix series. I'm gonna Google this now. You'll know who I mean as soon as I say it. Googling on air. I appreciate this is not good for the audio listeners. This is why I'm chatting to it. We had Not Safe, Not Stay Close. What's the latest one? 2023. Let's stay 2023. There was one that she had in Fool Me Once. That's the one. Fool Me Once on Netflix. Have you seen it? So the main woman in this, Michelle
Fool
Keegan.
Me Once.
Michelle Keegan is and
no, I don't think
if you Google Michelle Keegan after this, you'll be like, oh, okay, I can absolutely see this next Bond. Strange to have like a northern lass as a Bond girl, but I reckon she could pull it off. The thing I'm intrigued at, I agree with you. Where are they going to go with this after the last one was very heavily pushed in a, dare I say, woke agenda with Father Bond and killing off Bond, and not only no womanizing, but almost laughed at the concept of potentially womanizing. I don't know. I think, and I touch wood with this, we are past peak woke. And I think we're in this situation now where I think they may not in your face go back to the old school Bond. They don't want to upset people that are still very triggered. But I think they will they will do a much more traditional thing where they won't push the boundaries anymore because maybe of the backlash of the No Time to Die ending. I generally thought the No Time to Die ending was a test to see how far they needed to go with this. And I think it's kind of failed. I think most people disliked the ending. Most people didn't like the villain wasn't fleshed out on the storyline. I think there's good bits about the movie. Certainly the opening hour was one of the best on record in terms of Bond movies. But
massively so.
I think the next movie is going to be a little bit of return to style. I hope. And I think the casting and the director, and this is the reason why I don't necessarily believe the Aaron Taylor Johnson stuff right now, because I have no word of a director being announced.
Of course, yeah. And it was not that long ago that Eon Productions and Broccoli Family were saying we're not even doing anything at the moment. So, but maybe that's all deflection, you know? Maybe they have been, maybe that is still their thing. They're just looking in the background and now they have found their guy. I don't know. We can't possibly say, you know, until stuff is officially announced.
You know what my biggest fear is? My biggest fear is that she doesn't want to say never. But maybe both Harry Saltzman and Barbara Broccoli are like, look, we're getting close to retirement age. I don't really want to do another one. So, and does Bond, like, is the Bond that because Barbara Broccoli's the one that came out and said that she doesn't want to cast a female Bond, which suggests maybe Barbara Broccoli knows that the Bond she wants to write might not be feasible in 2024, 25. So maybe she's kind of saying, look, unless I run out of money, unless I need to, this is the end. We've given you we've killed off the character. Why have you automatically assumed there's going to be a Bond 26? There's 25. Like, the 25 is a perfect number, right? Like, my biggest concern, and this is the reason why I want an announcement of an actor, because I just want proof that they're doing something and that this is just not the end of the franchise.
Yeah.
But I could see it.
Yeah. It realistically could be the case. Realistically, that maybe exactly that. They just hadn't figured out, can they do another one? Well, let's sit and plan because we don't want to do this on a whim. Maybe it is over, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if it is, because we've got some fantastic, incredible movies, and we don't want more stuff that could wreck the franchise. We've seen that already with Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, etc. So, you know, maybe that is the perfect way to end it. It was just, you know, not the greatest way of killing him off.
It would make me feel better about them killing him off if they did end it. Like, as much as I don't want them to end it, because I'm a fanboy, If they killed him
Yeah.
off, then it's like,
Yeah.
right, okay, cool. I understand that. Like, we have a start and a finish. But they bounce back from the end of the day. The thing about Bond, which I think it is this evergreen, lifelong thing, is that it's still very much other than the Daniel Craig era, which kind of reinvented the wheel a little bit, they're quite standalone movies. There's a continuity, maybe not anymore,
Yeah.
but it's a very
Yeah.
loose continuity, which makes me think that there's got to be another one. But who knows? I want a casting to know there is more.
We could still be surprised yet, and this is where I'm going to put a cat amongst the pigeons. As I was finding more about Aaron Taylor Johnson, most articles referenced his wife, who I didn't know who she was.
Yes,
she's a director, okay, and has done some big things, and I'm sure she's amazing. It's fantastic. But some years ago, using Daniel Craig, she directed a short film called James Bond on International Women's Day, which was Daniel Craig changing into a dress. So, if it gets officially announced that Aaron Taylor Johnson is the next James Bond, that I can guarantee you, well, let's put it here as a world first, that there will be articles at some point they're going to get Sam Taylor Johnson on as well, and it's going to be this woke, dress-wearing trans Bond or whatever. You know, it's not.
Dylan
Of course,
Mulvaney,
it's
the
not,
next
but I reckon
James
that's gonna
Bond.
come out. Oh, mate, imagine that'll be some company will use that as the advertising for their own Bond agenda, without a doubt. Oh my god!
Yeah, I'm. If this is either the end, or for me, this is a return to some form of prowess, because all the movies recently have been relatively good. People hate on Spectre. I thought it was a good old classic Bond movie. Quantum has some fun bits in it. It's not terrible, and so I think like I think the biggest question here, as you know, is if they are continuing, like, and they are going back to return to form, what form are they returning to? Are they going to the Bourne movies, essentially, is what Daniel Craig's Bond was, or are they going to a Pierce Brosnan?
Yeah.
And I think this is where the casting becomes interesting. I think a Aaron Taylor Johnson or Richard Madden would lean into it's carrying on the Daniel Craig style of movie. But if you go Henry Cavill, you're probably leaning into the Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore, slightly charmingly camp Bond. Which, to be honest with you, I think if I generally believe if Bond has a place in today's world, I think it needs to be. I don't think it will be. I think it will be a bit more of a gritty action hero thing again, because people tend to like them. But I think if you can play it off as a bit tongue in cheek, you can probably get away with a little bit more Bondiness without the backlash. So I think it does need to go back to being a bit sillier. I know. What do you think on that? What style do you want this next Bond to be?
I just missed the last bit of your last sentence. Was that a question? Sorry, bruv. It's tricky because knowing how modern movies have to be made now to make their money and keep people's attention. What was it? The last, not that I've ever seen anything since the first one, but like the last Fast and the Furious was a cut every 3 seconds or something like that, because that's the average attention span. And I would hate to see that as the directorial style in a Bond film. That would kill it for me. So again, there's so much at stake. Like, how do they make it? Do they go back to that classic style of movie making alongside the classic style of Bond? Do they? I would like to see. The biggest issue I had, and you spoke about this with someone recently, and this is what I said in the cinema, that it got to the point where I was like, this is Mission Impossible. This isn't Bond. Once we got through that opening Bond scene, I was like, this is Mission Impossible now. Which was still, still better than a completely shit Bond film. So I don't want to see them go that direction. I would love to see, not a complete return, because I don't think it's drifted too far from it, but that classic Bond is that's what Bond fans want. So why would you make a movie for non-Bond fans?
That's the thing that I always think. Does it stay in the modern day?
Ooh. Well, I think that's where it becomes risky and potentially becomes more Mission Impossible than anything else. A little bit too futuristic, but
because if you
that could be interesting. would they
Yeah,
take
because
it further back in
if
the
you ask my
timeline?
dad, he wants to return to the 60s. And it's not just because he's like the good
Sure.
old days, because my dad was born in 58, so he
Yeah.
was very too young for the 60s.
Mm.
But my dad is very
Mm.
much like, look, gadgets are no, who cares? We can do them all from our smartphones now.
Yeah.
And everything can be like, boop, I pressed a
Yeah.
button and these things solve themselves. And I get
Mm.
that. And like where the
Yeah.
locations were still charming and elegant, whereas now everyone can go to all these locations. We all do the Bond lifestyle in terms of pop into different islands and places. So it's not quite as glamorous.
Yeah.
But I disagree. I like the idea of the style of the movie of the 60s and that tongue-in-cheek and a little bit charming, but still a very serious core.
Mm.
But I think the biggest appeal of Bond is that guys want to be him, and till recently, girls wanted to be with him. And I think to do that, you have to put in the modern day. Like if as much as I love the old Bond movies, I tend to find myself coming back to the Daniel Craigs more often because now in today's world, if I want to, I go, oh God, I want to be like Daniel Craig. And when I originally watched the Sean Connery ones, I want to be like Sean Connery, but I can't picture that. I can't get that feeling, that swagger coming out of watching a movie with Sean because the whole movie feels alien to me. You know, so I think it has to stay in modern days to be able to capture this new generation of audience of kids that want to be like him. I watched the Bond Experience YouTube channel, and Dave Zabiskie, the Bond Experience, talked about like he was a big fan of Daniel Craig because they are the same age. So when he got the role, he's almost grown up as an adult, so like in his mid-30s, up into his 50s.
Yeah.
He's like he's seen the James Bond evolve and feel like he can embellish that character, and that's when he became famous because he was a very rich guy that bought all the cars and the clothes and the watches and just basically tried to live vicariously through it. And like, so I think it has to stay modern day for people to resonate with it. But I think it's interesting. Anyway, man, I think we've set the worlds to rights on one end and speculated on the other end. So to finish off, if you could have one person play Bond, and you could have one director to play Bond, who would it be?
Oh, the director. Oh, that's a great fucking question, actually. I don't know. I like, based on his own feelers that he's put out there, that he would love to direct one. I wouldn't mind giving Christopher Nolan a chance, but he can't make a Christopher Nolan movie.
I agree with you.
Okay, that's my only prerequisite. Don't need Zimmer on the soundtrack.
Well, Zimmer did a good job last time.
It can't be Christopher Nolan. Did a good job, but let's give someone else a chance.
I agree with Nolan.
Nolan could be interesting, right? Actor, I just still have. I think there could be an amazing Bond experience having Cavill in there.
You watch the Man from Uncle, I want to see 5 movies of this. And I know Man from Uncle was set back in time, but let's say a modern take on that. I think he's built to play it. Who sings the theme tune?
Who would I want to sing a theme tune rather than who I think would sing a theme tune? Who would I want to sing?
I'm intrigued to know who you think will sing.
Oh fuck, man! Oh, this could go on. Let's go with female. Let's go with female. Actually, that's a terrible choice because there's only a handful of female singers I like. Fuck. Oh man, I don't know. What
Adele,
you go first
Adele again. I think Adele again, or Billie Eilish again. I think both of those are very good. So I'd happily have Adele become the new Shirley Bassey.
Cool.
That's potentially my choice. And for actor, I'd agree with Cavill. I think absolutely. And then if I was doing a Bond girl, it'd probably be Michelle Keegan. I think it's different enough. I think she looks glamorous and she, really good looking woman, but also but very holds her own. Like can get a little bit of that glamorous Bond, almost Eva Green style ness to her, but with that rough and ready Northern English lass, sort of that brings something a bit different. With also being able to work in 2025, and like no disrespect to Sydney Sweeney, I think she's a great actor. Like, do you lean too much into the Christmas Jones era with her, which I love World's Not Enough, but she wasn't great.
Yeah. I mean, we could. I don't think we will. We could see this entire thing ruined. They could end up choosing the worst Bond actress. Let's go actress. They could have Taylor Swift doing the fucking theme tune. It could be
I
absolutely
wouldn't
terrible,
hate
but I
Taylor
don't
Swift's
think it
announcement
will.
as doing the
You
theme
know,
tune. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be as
I
bad
would.
as
I
Madonna.
absolutely
I
would.
think
But
she could do an all right job.
You never know, right? Think about this. Let's take like just a quick little ending thing from me. Let's say they want to not revamp, but take it back to its classic era and its classic fucking Bond. Whoever they end up doing the theme tune could be a much older singer
Shirley
that's in their
Bassey.
60s, 70s, who's still
Shirley
around.
Bassey, Tom Jones.
You never know that.
Tom and
Tom,
Shirley is she's still an amazing singer, but she's not the singer she was. Tom Jones still is.
Yeah. Tom Jones can still wail, unless, of course, and I employ anyone to go search this out, as I discovered the other day, his cover of Purple Rain on his own TV show. But other than that, he's an incredible singer. You can't say anything other than that. You can't say otherwise about that. With
Interesting. So, for where can people find you in particular, maybe to become more of a macho testosterone-filled man, to be a bit like James Bond? This is what you offer people. So, tell me where people can do that.
If you want to be a suave, sophisticated, sexy, and jacked, but maybe not necessarily as mobile as Bond, because that's not my expertise in the slightest, and come find me at the Fat Loss Fastlane. If you want to put your candidacy forward for the next Bond girl, same place, come find me at the Fat Loss Fastlane, because I do work with men and women. If you, that's about it. If you want a vocal range to audition for the next Bond theme tune, it's not my area. Don't come see me for that.
My wife's doing singing lessons. Maybe she can advise you. Yeah,
amazing. I'll be taking them up soon because my band. I'm not saying anything yet. My band may be doing something this year where we need to be on our A game, and I haven't sung for a long time. And I tried singing in the car last night, and I nearly passed out. So I'm getting lessons.
Interesting. So maybe it'd be a collaboration between you and my wife. I think is going to do the next Bond theme. So yeah. I mean, I'd vote for that. That'd be scary and disturbing, but quite epic at the same time. But awesome, guys. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. Leave a review on Apple, Spotify. The more we can get this out to more people, the bigger guests to get, the more lavish studio shows we can get me and Robin chatting about things like Bonds. But Rob, pleasure as always. Catch you soon. Thank you for listening to the Self-Made Podcast. If you're like me and like binge watching podcast episodes, click here to watch our latest episode. Or if you want to stay in touch and find out when the next episode goes live, click here to subscribe to the channel.